this is Sarabjit. As promised, this is week 5 of Acme Solutions case study that we've been doing as a group in this Facebook group, Business Analyst in Demand. With that, let's get started. As I have said earlier, this is a case study, which means it's a land of make-believe to help you guys understand the concepts and roles that business analysts do in their day-to-day role as a business analyst. The goal of doing these case studies, as we've heard and know, that many companies are requiring for business analyst interviews, people to have the ability to complete a case study. So while we're doing this case study, it'll help you guys prepare for your interviews. For people that are already in a business analyst role, it'll help you figure out typically what types of things are done in your role of a business analyst. And if you're trying to transition into a role, this will help you make up your mind to see if a business analyst is a role that you want to continue pursuing. There's lots of hype around business analyst roles or business analysis because of the great benefits that the role provides, great salaries, flexible work environments, and the opportunity for advancement. But it also takes a skill and attention to detail that you have to have as part of your skill set to become successful as a business analyst. And my hope in doing these case studies to help showcase what it really takes to be a business analyst and also help you prepare for your upcoming interviews so that you have the opportunity to do well once you do land that position. And again, with case studies, the best I could do is the land of make-believe because they vary from industry to industry. So what you can do is, whether you have this case study that you're presenting or any other one, just look at the framework that I am teaching you and not worry too much about the details of the industry, because with these case studies, I'm not from those industries either, so I can't, I'm trying to do the best I can to help you. All right, with that, let's get started. Let me share my screen. We are in week 5. If this is the first time that you are joining me for this case study, make sure that you go back in our group and find those videos week 1 through 4. What I'm gonna be showcasing today is week 5 for Acme Solutions or Acme Systems. Okay, with that, let's get started. So my intro, who am I? I'm Sarabjit. I manage this group. I've got about 15 years of experience as a business analyst, as managing teams of business analysts, as a project manager, as a program manager. So all of my background and my career has been in software development, both in waterfall and agile. And what I present to you and what I teach you is not the textbook stuff of doing, your role as a business analyst, but actually the hands-on approach. Typically what I've done in my career, what I've taught others, what I've mentored others, and what I've seen in the industry. So lots of times I get questions about, hey, the book says this. I teach you what I know, and from my experience, I don't teach you what the book says to do. Books like the Babak and others that you may find are great references, are amazing references for you to know and understand. But unfortunately, because companies neither have the resources or the time that's required to do everything by the book, there are things that typically we don't do in the real world scenario. And again, what I teach you is not the textbook stuff. I teach you my experience and my background, and I hope that you will find that beneficial, and that's my hope. So the case study approach is the hands-on approach. All the work will be done while I'm teaching you this so that you can understand my thought process in doing these things, right? And then if you have questions, post them in the comments area, and I will get back to you guys on why I did something or what my thought process was. So again, pay attention, ask questions. If not during the training, post them in the comments, and I promise I'll get back to you on the answers. This case study, again, if you've been following us for the last 4 years, not 4 years, last 4 weeks in this case study, it's beneficial to know what we did and how we did it and where we are. But if any event, if you're joining us for this one for the very first time, Acme Systems is a world leader in providing software for the hotel industry. our customer is Vive or Hotels has a request for us to create an app for their cleaning staff, for their supervisor, and for admin. And a cleaning staff is a person who has our app installed on their mobile phone. The cleaning staff visits locations, rooms assigned to him, and clean the room. A supervisor is a person who verifies the work of a cleaning staff, and an admin is a person who assigns locations or rooms to cleaning staff and assigns supervisor to rate the same. So it's essentially, in a nutshell, what we're doing for this case study is we're creating an app for the hotel industry for the cleaning staff to be assigned to rooms that need to be cleaned, for a supervisor to rate the work, and admin also to do the final check before the rooms are assigned to their to people that check into the hotel. Okay. These are our requirements. I'll pause for a minute so you guys can have a chance to read them. I'll read them just really quickly so that way we're all on the same page. A requirement is the cleaning staff to start his shift upon login to the app. They then visit. So again, this was a case study that I was given. There's lots of grammatical errors on here, which I didn't fix. I just plopped it on here just because that's what I was given. I think the requirement is that each time they visit a room or location which has been assigned to him or her by the admin, they'll start the timer by selecting the location. They then clean and fill out a checklist with comments, if any. Once done, they submit the report and mark the task complete, and so on. The supervisor then visits the room or location assigned to them. They pull out the details of the staff who cleaned the location. They verify the work, assign and rate each item. And once they're done, they rate the work of the cleaning staff. The admin allocates rooms and or locations to cleaning staff and supervisor. Each cleaning staff and supervisor can service multiple locations or room. And what we're supposed to do is we need to write up a SRS document with functional point and wireframes for a web application. So what it says is your task. That is what they're expecting out of this case study. But what we're doing together in weeks earlier and a few more weeks that will go in detail is to give you guys a framework, right? My goal here is to not just jump to the SRS, right? But to show you how we're gonna get there as a business analyst. What are the typical things that we do day to day to arrive to something called an SRS? And SRS is a software requirements a documentation, which is typically done in the waterfall. I'm going to take the agile approach and show you guys how to do these things in an agile standpoint, because I think that most of the industry is moving towards agile. So I'd rather teach you guys, if I'm spending time, teach you the agile approach of doing software development, doing your role as a BA, and understanding how software is built using the agile methodology. So again, what I'm teaching you is a framework, and this is typically what you would do in your role as a business analyst and what we're doing in this case study. So hopefully, if you were working on a case study for your interview or in the job as a business analyst, you would follow this framework. Okay, so the first thing is always to document assumptions or constraints. You're going to create an as-is diagram, which is done by interviewing stakeholders. Lots of times I'm asked, how do you create an as-is workflow, or how do you document requirements? You get those things by talking to and interviewing your stakeholders. There are many, many different ways of gathering requirements. Interviewing is one of the most common way of gathering requirements from your stakeholders, okay? So you create your as-is workflow by interviewing stakeholders, you identify their current pain points, you document expected results and or enhancements. So if it's an existing application that you're working on, then you're typically doing an enhancement. If it's a brand new application, then you're just documenting the manual way of them doing things, and then the expected result after, let's say, we have a new software tool in our tool belt, okay? We create use case diagrams, which is again the high level features of what we're trying to do. We identify business rules, which are typically constraints, right? Each industry has their own set of business rules. Once you're in an industry, you understand those business rules, but they're not really hard. to understand. And that's why typically when you look at a business analyst job description, they'll say preferred experience in the healthcare industry, because they're expecting you, if you have experience in the healthcare industry or whatever industry you're applying for, it is expected that you know these business rules, which are typically the jargon of the industry, typically, knowns of the industry. So again, you need to identify what those business rules are, which are typically constraints for your software. For example, like if you're in the healthcare industry, you would know what PPI is, right? Like personal identifiable information, right? So things like that. So nothing too crazy there, but just knowing the jargon of the industry helps. And if you're working on your project, you would identify which business rules your application or your software is abiding against. You would create your 2B diagrams. You would create your requirements for the future state in a form of a user stories or acceptance criteria. You would create your prototypes, and then you would present your case study. If you're in the real world scenario, if you're working as a business analyst or as a Scrum Master, you would present your user stories to your stakeholders and get validation to make sure that they're correct. Lots of times your product owner is supposed to do user stories. That doesn't necessarily always happen that way. So if you're a business analyst or a Scrum Master, most of the time you're helping your product owner in drafting and writing those user stories, okay? So that's just the way things go, unfortunately. Okay, so this is the framework. What we've done in the last 4 weeks, we've done an intro, we've documented our assumptions, we've created our use case diagram, we finished our as-is workflow, we created a product backlog, which is like, again, high-level features of what it is that we want to accomplish with this project. We've identified our business rules and we started to work on our 2B workflow. And in this training session, I'm gonna try to complete our high-level 2B workflow. And then the next session will focus on identifying and creating user stories for our project or our case study, okay? And what I'll do is after this training session, I'll, in the group, I will, okay, give me 1 second. So what I'll do is after our training, I'll post a link for this PowerPoint slides for you guys to review after this training is over. So this week, what we're gonna focus on finishing our high level workflows, and also I think that should be enough for today. And then the next session, week 6 of the training, we'll start to write our user stories based on our product backlog that we have, okay? So let me exit out of the presentation mode. And then everything that we've done so far, I'm gonna put in the appendix. So we identified business rules last week, so I'll put them down there. And then since we're not finished with our high level workflow, I'll leave this here. We'll probably replace it by what we do today, okay? Give me 1 second. So let me open up for our diagramming for this project. I'm using draw.io, which is a workflow mapping tool. It's free. It's web-based, so you can use it to practice if you don't have experience in doing workflows. If you're working as a business analyst, typically you will be using something called Microsoft Visio, and that's like an enterprise tool. So for us, for practice, draw.io is really, really useful and gives you in the habit of drawing diagrams based on what your project requirements needs are, okay? Okay, so last week we started to created our level 0 workflow, and then we started to do our level 1. So the difference between level 0 and level 1 is the details, right? So level 0 will be extremely high level, and level 1 will be a little bit more detailed, and level 2 would be extremely detailed. So what we're gonna do is I'll review what we've done last week, and then we'll try to finish level 1, and we'll try to also do level 1 for another user based on what it is that they're gonna be doing in the system, okay? And just so we don't forget, our product backlog is right here. So what we're trying to accomplish with this project is, well, we're creating a mobile app. That's the first thing. We want the ability to input hours for staff. supervisor, admin, and manager, right? We want people to log in. We want to create a timer. We want the staff, supervisor, and admin to have the ability to write notes. We want to update the checklist, assign staff to rooms, and then assign type of cleaning, rating the staff, creating the schedule, reporting, reservations, and maintenance requests. So this is a huge, big list. We're obviously not going to try to focus on everything on this product backlog, which is something that we created anyway. It's not something that they gave us at the case study as a requirement. I think all they were looking for is for us to create an SRS document with prototyping, which doesn't mean that you take everything from end to end, because that would take a lot longer to create. Typically, when you're assigned a case study, they'll give you 1 week to complete this. Typically, when you're assigned to a project like this, you have at least 2 to 3 months to document the requirements, right? And if it's agile, you have the entire duration of the project to draft requirements. And because it's an iterative approach, you're drafting a little bit, your developers are coding it, you're getting validation, you're getting back, and then you're coding, refining your requirements, okay? So for our purposes, we'll take a few of these and we'll write user stories for them. I'll show you how to put them in release cycles, and we'll follow the agile approach in that way. So let's go back and start working on our workflows. Level 0, this is admin supervisor to assign room to staff to cleaning, to clean room. Check schedule per staff, is cleaning completed? If no, if yes, then the supervisor inspects the room. And if no, then it's an iterative approach where they go into a cycle and they make sure that all the cleaning is completed. And then once the admin reviews and marks the room available, the process ends. So looking at level 0 and level 1, you could see that there's a lot more details in level 1, which is what we're trying to accomplish when we're doing different levels of workflows, right? So in here, we start, the staff is starting, they're checking for the schedule for assigned rooms. They start cleaning, they start the timer. If cleaning is completed, they end the timer. If it is not, this goes into a continuous loop until they are. Even when they're done with that room, then the next decision point is, are they completed with all rooms assigned? If the answer is no, then again, they're going through this cycle over and over again until they're done with their shift. And if they are, end work for the day, and then they end the process. So this is the workflow that we're looking at for staff. For supervisors, now the thing that we're building in when we're doing apps, and is different from our as is that typically when staff was cleaning these rooms, they had to fill out like a spreadsheet and at the end of the day hand it into the supervisor to do checks. When we're doing an app, there's lots of automated notifications that can happen, right, to create more efficiency around the work that's being done. So when they end the timer, and notifications get sent to the supervisor to inspect the room that's clean. They can rate it, determine if the room needs to be re-cleaned. If the answer is yes, they assign it to the staff room, and then it goes to the next staff or whoever is available to start this process all over again. Now, but if the room is clean, they provide notes and sign off. And again, as soon as they sign off on a room that's ready for the admin to check, a notification is sent to the admin. So what the admin would do is review notes from staff and supervisor for room. And they would, based on our requirements, it says that they're gonna go back and they're gonna inspect the room. So now, well, they'll review notes and then they'll go inspect the room. And then the decision point is room clean for or assignment, I guess, not reassignment, assignment. So this is where they're checking to see if the room is clean enough so they can assign it to the next guest that checks into the hotel, right? So if it is clean, then they will go in and update room in database for incoming guests, right? If it is clean. Now, if it's not clean, right, they will then send this back. They will then assign it to a cleaning staff. Because the admin and the supervisor can assign rooms to staff, they will assign room to cleaning staff, which then gets assigned to staff, and then the process continues over and over again. So now let's say if this is done, if the room is clean enough and we're able to assign it to incoming guests, then this is where the process ends right here. So this is our end-to-end level 1 workflow for how things are getting assigned to from staff to supervisor to admin, right? I think what we may need to do is check room. So it is actually not the staff person that is starting this process. It's actually either the admin or the supervisor. So let me move this over a little bit, because it is either the supervisor or this admin that is assigning staff to each room, right? Based on what needs to be cleaned. So I'm putting it in the middle because both supervisor or admin has the ability to check, to assign rooms, right? So we'll have a process right here. Rooms to staff, and then also type of cleaning. We talked about that in our as-is or somewhere before, that there's different types of cleaning, right? There's cleaning that that they do, like a deep cleaning when somebody checks out of the room that needs to be reassigned, and then there's like everyday cleaning, like for staff guests that are staying for like a couple of days, they need to go in and clean their towels and things like that. So they assign room to staff and type of cleaning. The staff check. I think this was right here actually. I'll just put it here. Okay, there we go. So that looks better. So we're starting the process with either the admin or the supervisor assigning room to staff. They're cleaning, and then the staff goes in and checks their schedule and looks at what rooms are assigned to them. They start their cleaning. We have a few decision points, whether they're done cleaning with their room, the particular room assigned, or they're cleaning, and once they're done, they're in with their shift. This is what the supervisor is doing in the system, and this is what the admin is doing. Now, what we can do is we can go in deeper and do a level 2. Let's do a level 2 workflow, which will be a little bit more detailed. And we can take any of these processes, right? So any rectangle is considered a processes. A diamond is considered a decision point, and these ovals are considered or known as like starting or ending points, right? So terminator or beginning of a process. So these three shapes are very, very known in the industry. So if you know them, you can understand a workflow that you're looking at. And when you're creating them, there's lots of shapes, right? There's lots of different shapes that you can use when you're creating workflows, but these three are the very, very basics that you should know if you're planning to have your career in the business analyst industry. It's just a way for you to draw and understand diagrams. Now, each of these boxes are considered a process, and each of these boxes can essentially have a workflow for themselves, right? Just because even when we say assign rooms to staff and type of cleaning, there's lots of stuff that's going on in the background to even make that possible. So maybe let's do level 2 on this one. Level 2 workflow on assign room to staff and type. So it's always good practice to label your workflows and diagrams that you're working on, just because when you're going back and you have lots of them, it's hard to sometimes see which one that it represents. So it's always good practice to label your diagrams in a way where when you go back, you can understand, what's happening. So now for us to create this workflow, what I'm going to do is copy this down. And maybe we can reuse some of these items. Maybe we can't. I don't know, because I haven't thought about it or done this. I'm doing this on the fly. So let's see what this will look like. Okay. So for us to do a workflow to assign room to a staff and assign type of cleaning, there's a few things that you would need as input, right? So I would need to know the availability of the staff, right? So let's see how we can do this. Maybe I don't need all of this. Okay, so let's start from scratch. So where's my oval? So we are starting with staff. So let's say we live in a world where staff has the ability to assign or to provide their availability. Or we could go in and just assign our time, our schedule to staff. I think it may be easier to just assign schedule to staff, right? So supervisor or admin know how many rooms need to be cleaned. So they post the schedule or assign their cleaning staff. Now, I don't know how things in the hotel industry work. So again, when we're doing case studies, it's a bit of a land of make-believe. So in our workflow here, I'll just say, let's just make it complicated. Let's just say staff goes into the app. So provide for next week. So in our land of make-believe and in our case study, we're saying that the staff is going to start by providing their availability for the next week, right? So they're going into the app and they're providing their availability. They'll say on Monday, I'm available for 4 hours from 1 to 4. On Tuesday, I'm available from 8 to 12. So, things like that. So once they provide their availability, a notification goes to staff, goes to the supervisor and admin, and we'll say, staff availability completed. So we'll assume that all of this, everybody that's working, let's say if it's 5 or 10 people, they're providing their availability, a notification goes to supervisor and admin. And the reason why I'm putting it in the middle is because I'm just trying to avoid having, two rectangles. If it's something that's a shared, we've seen in the industry that you can put it across in the middle. to identify that it's something that has access for both the staff and the supervisor, okay? So staff completed availability. Now what we're gonna do is we are going to say that this is a workflow for assigning room to staff. So now based on the availability, let me remove this for now. So let me think about this for a second. So we're providing staff provides availability, supervisor and admin know what that is. Then they review their room capacity, I guess, to determine, so review room capacity and determine number of cleanings, right? So this ideally should also come from our our hotel reservation system. So there should be an input that says, ideally there should be an input that says 10 people checking out and 15 people staying until whenever. Right? So maybe this is an input that our admin and supervisor get from an external system, right? To help us understand what the room capacity is and how many people are checking out and how many people are staying, right? So based on this, right, we now know that there's 10 people, 10 rooms that need deep cleaning, right? And there's 15 people that need just like clean towels, their beds made, their trash can cleaned out, and just the very basic stuff. And then there's 10 people that need deep cleaning. So based on that understanding and knowing the capacity, now we will go in and start assigning things to staff. So we will go in and say assign rooms and assign type of cleaning, right? So once we do that, staff will review their schedule. Review schedule. And then we can follow the same process over here. Okay. Okay. Oops. I don't know what I just did. So no goes here. And if they're done, they end their timer. And again, all the notifications apply, but since we're focusing on the workflow of assigning rooms to staff and type of cleaning, this is the new things that we've introduced in this process, which we only identified by here assigning room to staffs and type of cleaning. We've added a little bit more flavor into saying how does that happen, and that happens with staff providing their availability, and then supervisor and admin looking at that, reviewing the capacity and the things that need to be done, and then assigning rooms to staff and the type of cleaning that's needed, because there's some other input that they're getting to understand each day what type of cleaning is needed and how many people they need on staff. Okay, so that completes our level 1 of this. What I'm going to do now is copy and paste it into the PowerPoint presentation, which I'll give you guys access to. so that you guys can go back and review this. This is week 5, okay. And I will insert. Okay, so that's complete now. So I believe we're done with our work, 2B workflows in this training. Next week, or week 6 of the training, we'll focus on identifying what these items are, these processes that we want to build in, looking at our product backlog, and start writing user stories. Okay, that's what we'll do for week 6. Week 7, probably I'll show you how to do prototyping, and week 8 we'll complete our user stories and prototyping, and we'll be ready to hand this case study in to either whoever's interviewing us, or hopefully if you're again doing this in a real world scenario, you'll have a framework that you can follow over and over again when you're working on new projects. Okay. So I think that's it. If you have questions, as I've said, please post them in the comments area and I will get back to you. I think what we're done, this is week 5, so we at least have 2 or 3 more weeks left in this case study. I'm happy to take on more case studies and work with you guys and helping you get this framework down to an art. Just post them in the case studies that you'd like to work on, post them in the group and make sure there's enough information available for me to work on them. Lots of times, people post case studies and there's not enough information. Even when it's from a different industry, I need to know what the case study is requiring. I need to have some sort of assumption so I could, while this is land of make believe, it still needs to have concrete information when we're thinking about IT systems for me to work on as a case study. So again, for this Acme Solutions, this is week 5. We have maybe 2 or 3 more weeks left for us to complete this. And I'm happy to work on more case studies as you'd like. Just post them in the group, and I'm happy to take on the next case study after we're done with this one. I hope you found this helpful. Again, post any questions you may have. I'm happy to spend time and explain anything that's needed. And what we may do is at the end of this, I'll do a Q&A session for you guys to come and ask me live questions about the case study itself. So again, I hope you found this helpful. Again, next time, I'll see you again. Bye.